What's up, Go enthusiasts? Welcome back to my series on this year's Nongshim Cup. The Nongshim Cup is a 5v5v5 team tournament. Japan versus China versus Korea. All three countries send their 5 best players to duke it out. If you win, you keep playing. If you lose, you're out. Your teammate comes in next time and the countries rotate, so everyone gets to play. We are in round 3, at least my coverage is in round 3. Hao is playing Gil. Both of these players, very strong players. Gil, the strongest to appear so far in the tournament. Solid top 10 player in the world. Hao, top 20. And Hao is coming off a win. He just beat Shu Traian in round 2. And they play a really interesting game. Let's take a look. Hao playing black, Gil playing white. This looks like it's a flying knife invitation from Hao, but actually he doesn't do it. The complicated Joseki avoided once again, thank goodness, for all the viewers. And we have an immediate Mueo forming. Black is spending all of his moves building in the center and on the bottom right side. What to do when your opponent just makes a Mueo right away at the start of the game? Well, white plays this attachment first. A lot of people have questions about this kind of attachment. Professionals like to just call it a probe. That's a little bit lazy for about what it's actually doing. It's not really well described if you just say it's a probe and you give up and don't talk about it anymore. The reason why people are lazy talking about whether it's good and like how it's good is that it's really not clear whether it is good at all, to be honest. In my opinion, I don't think this is a good exchange. And there's reasons that it could be and reasons that it couldn't be. And AI doesn't seem to think it matters, to be honest. AI thinks it's not a good thing nor a bad thing. This kind of exchange, what it did is it lost potential to use the weakness in the corner in some other ways, and it gained if weight starts reducing through on the right side. If we draw some arrow and weight comes in here, then that stone will help weight reduce a bit more. That's all. Those two gains and losses are approximately equal in value, and that judgment is where it gets complicated and we start talking about probes and confusing everyone. The main point of the game is not going to be the probe, it's going to be the push. It's going to be what happens in the Mueo, in the general fighting in the game. Push here, black plays Hane. Black is thinking, oh my goodness, why don't I make a big arrow that way, make a big arrow that way, everything in the middle is mine. That would be pretty nice. I don't think anyone could complain if black got that much. Well, white might complain. So he plays this Hane. And black extends and white pushes and black pushes and white pushes. A lot of my students ask me, when am I supposed to Hane? When am I supposed to keep pushing? It's pretty confusing, to be honest. And it's very difficult to properly explain when each is correct. In the game, black chose to Hane now and white chose to cut. Okay, so the main idea, you should Hane whenever you're not scared of the cut. The only reason why this move could possibly be worse than extending, it has to be the weakness that it leaves behind. Because just in terms of the control of the board, when black plays this aggressive Hane, he gets much further to the side. He has, a much wider area that he's outlining on the right side. The speed is much, much higher. The downside is you leave the cut behind. So the only reason not to play this is if you're scared of the cut. Whether you should be scared of the cut is a decision that you have to make, is a judgment that you have to make, and it depends on the board. In this case, black saw he had a lot of cutting points already on the bottom side, so he thought, if I just Hane really quickly, then my opponent will cut and I'll be like getting shattered in some way, like white is going to abuse all these cutting points and cut through something, and it's not going to be good. So I need to extend a bunch, get enough strength, and then I can Hane. And if my opponent cuts, black said I can extend like this. When my opponent extends, tries to work with their cutting stone, then I can jump. So black is saying, hey, I've covered all of my cutting points on this side, and I think I have enough strength that these two stones are dead. And indeed, they should be dead. White plays this jump, and black pushes here, and white doesn't even dare to block because when black cuts, those 3 stones will die. So he just plays away. Here, these 3 stones, there's nowhere to go. They're swimming in a black area. It's all over. So it makes sense if you're gonna die, don't block and feed black a little bit more territory. Wait to reduce from the outside, and even white starts by reducing from the right side right away. You may ask, well, Telegraph, if black was not supposed to be scared of the cut against the Hane, if black could kill that, then why did white immediately come in and cut and then extend and then jump even if he was just going to sacrifice the whole time? Like, white's plan is to sacrifice those 2 stones. Why didn't he just do nothing? Why didn't he just leave that area for later, you know? And that's a good question if you're thinking like that. The answer is actually related to something that a lot of my students also ask about, which is my opponent is building a moyo. So black in this case is building a really big area on the right side. It feels like they shouldn't be able to get all that. If you feel like that, if you took this white position and you thought, man, my opponent does not deserve to get all of this territory, you're right, actually. Black does not deserve to get all that territory. The question is, why not? And the reason is all of these cutting points, right? If instead we changed the board, if we had, let's have white pass, throw some stones on the first line here, pretend they don't exist, and black just fixed all of these cutting points. If it's this position, actually here, black really does deserve to have most of this territory. But this is not the position we have in the game. This is a position after 3 white passes, right? So how do you use that then? If your opponent tries to outline a big territory, but they have a bunch of weaknesses, they don't deserve it, how to use those weaknesses to show that they don't deserve it? The most common way is to extract that value, move the value from their cuts towards the edges of their territories. So in this case, white knows there's value there, but there in the bottom right side of the board, white isn't confident to fight because black has so many surrounding stones that starting any fight would just be doomed. So instead of directly taking that value, saving this 1 stone on the right side, getting into a really, really difficult fight where white is in danger of dying, white says, let me take that and move it out to the center where black doesn't yet clearly have control. That's what white has done with this cut. So by cutting here and extending like this, white is forcing this black, it has to defend its cutting points in the bottom side now, and when it plays like this, now that position is fair. Black is getting some area still, especially in this area, but that's an area which black has committed a lot of stones to and they really deserve it. Black is still getting some area here as well and a lot of power there, but black's control there is much, much weaker because white has taken that original weakness and moved it all the way here so that now white has some extra control towards the top side. That's why, even though this is immediately turning into a sacrifice, actually this is going to look pretty good for white. White plays from this side, but since black is already committing to taking this center area, killing those 2 stones, it only makes sense for him to block on top, push a few times, and he gets kind of annoyed by this white push. If he would just continue extending here, then you can see white will probably do some kind of sacrifice, play on the top side somehow. Although black's moyo looks so beautiful, it's turned into only that much and this much. Now that may look like a lot, but you have to remember that white is getting quite a bit elsewhere on the board at the same time. So that black territory is not what I would call under-concentrated. It's not too much value for the number of stones that black has spent at this point. It's not scary. That's why black does not extend. It wouldn't be scary if black would extend. Black wants to be scary, of course. We all want to be scary to our opponents, at least. And so that's why black cuts here. And this is the same kind of deal as we saw with white's cut. It's the same kind of thing. White had played a Hane earlier, left a cutting point behind, and now black is going to exploit that and move its value. He can't very easily directly fight here, but he can fight on the side if white is a little bit slack. So here, white played a jump in the center. This was planning to assist in the sacrifice of those stones. Like, eventually, if white plays another move on the outside, it could even be forcing. That white would then be able to block and start a fight. But black played this knight's move, which was a pincer, proper surrounding move on those bottom white stones. And it was pretty difficult to answer. Even maybe this white stone could have been a little bit more effective to help that white, because he made a mistake with his next move here. This one, it had a very naive plan associated with it, and black disobeyed by playing here. So the idea from white, he attached a cross like this because he was hoping that black would cut and would try to take in a ladder. This would be ideal for white to be able to take his base really, really cleanly on the bottom side. This white will easily make two eyes, and even this black shape remains very clunky. This would be a great fight for white. Instead, by playing here, black is baiting white. Hey, come on, split me. Then I'll do the same thing, make this ladder. This fight, it may not look very different. It is very different. Although white has the same quality of base, the black quality of shape is so much better by capturing two stones instead of one. This is a pretty common theme when there's a ladder. If you force your opponent to commit to the ladder a bit more, it's going to turn out poorly for them. So by doing this move, white basically had to switch now. He had to bump here and allow black to connect through with a really nice shape there. And even black gets the next move to play this jump and sort of split that white from the corner. This is really, really annoying for white, because if black would block with a tiger's mouth next, it would be forcing. And so white has to play this to assist his life and death on the side. And black can play this bamboo shape. So at the end of the day, white ended up getting split from his corner and his side, and black has taken a small lead in the game. White jumps, black turns, white extends. So the idea is that this white needs to save itself and needs to run somewhere, and the maximum way to run is the one which most restricts this black, because this black also needs to run. It also needs to take care of itself. They're both trying to control as best as they can the other person's running direction, and that's what you see this extend is for, is like limiting black as well as he can while staying connected himself. That's what the jump was about. And black continues with this, we call it a horse face shape in the center. White plays the turn. So this starts a very interesting fight, because at this moment, black could cut, but then he would have to kind of commit to attacking these three stones. And as he does that, white is going to get some forcing moves in the center, some assistance in the fight, and his own group on the bottom side could get in some danger. So rather than doing a committal style of fight, he plays the turn. This one assists his three stones on the outside a lot more. It doesn't completely kill the white inside, but actually, Zhao Hao is planning on that. He's not just okay with that. He's not just, all right, I'll let you live. He wants white to try to save those three stones next to this wall. That's the type of game where he can get a fighting control advantage and really try to make some kind of victory, some kind of awesome fight. White plays the triple hunting. So the idea of white is, oh, I understand you're going in and you're going to try to make me sacrifice or make me save or whatever. I want to make you make the decision. White wants black to start cutting and making something happen to the white shape. Black exchanged an Atari and then jumped and was thinking, I want to make that inside white actually as heavy as possible. So what they're fighting over here is both sides know if white really, really commits to those stones, it's just not going to be a fun game for white at all. It's going to be really tough to play, and it's often just going to end up bad as well. So White here is saying like, hey, you should make, you should make a commitment yourself. You should say, hey, how are you gonna attack? And black, by Atariing here and then jumping, he said, I'll give you free reign to make a really nice shape on the right side there. I just want to run towards the center, towards putting pressure on these two groups as quickly as possible and really, really, really make an awesome shape there. So he doesn't care about the center area, and finally at this point, Wade is like, hey, if you're just gonna give me that kind of bad exchange, then let me fight with the right side. He plays this peep, and he's getting ready to do some kind of a net or ladder deal in the center. When Wade extends, then there's going to be all sorts of tricks that he can combine with living his group and all sorts of things. Black denies that by playing here. And actually, this ends up being more like what Black was planning all along. This peep was a bit early. If it had been a move here, it's much more patient. Black can continue to try to save, however he would try to save this one stone and continue to ask White, hey, do you want to save that? Do you want to save that? Do you want to save that? And the right answer for White should, by all rights, be no. I don't. And he said yes a little bit too quickly. Benson Gill was a bit too eager to start a defensive strategy with these 5 stones, and this extend is putting him in danger. He's trying to say, I can cut and then counterattack. The black stones on the upper right and on the right side can both become weak, even though they're walls right now. That doesn't mean they're eternally strong. And black cuts off the 2 white groups. The way that he does that, it still leaves some weaknesses on the right side. So white pushes and allows black to fix again. It wasn't really that efficient to spend 2 stones like this. So like overall in strategy, black's idea of I'm gonna make sure that white has all sorts of weaknesses here and has a hard time defending each of these 2 groups. It was a good strategy. It put a lot of pressure on, but the execution of these 2 stones is not a very efficient shape. It doesn't put that much pressure directly on these 5 stones or even on these 2 stones. It probably would have been better. Jump here, first of all, will help those 2 stones a bit better, and so it actually puts more pressure on these 2 stones. And then if white pushes, then jumping here puts more pressure on these 5 stones, and that you'll actually make like a big area. Of course, these 2 stones can still run into the center a little bit like this, but having more pressure on the properly weak area and like making it a bigger area, it's a bit better than the pressure here, which it turned out to not really do anything after turn and here. This black move may look very mysterious. What it does is it sacrifices the upper right. And for just this stone, a lot of players are not going to be satisfied with the sacrifice of the upper right. But actually, at this point, Jia Hao knows what he's doing pretty well. The sacrifice here, although those stones are dead, it will still pay dividends for black down the line. Black is still going to be getting a squeeze there in, almost every circumstance. And this stone very nicely restricts white's movement that could try to free it to the top side and allow white to capture these stones without getting squeezed, without having to fill the liberties and literally capture them later in the game. So this restriction has nicely surrounded and made this death on the top side a much better situation than any kind of fruitless effort to live. And black continues here. This was really, really, really nice. Black had run here, and white had ignored. White had gone to the center, if you remember. And then there was all this fighting, and eventually white captured the upper right, and black has kind of captured the center, but not completely yet. But black has a nice position on the outside. All these things are happening. And finally, black comes back to show his follow-up planned to that horse face move. And it was so nice. He played attachment and Hane like this. His idea was, I'm just going to limit this weight. I'm just going to restrict that weight from running. And it doesn't matter if I give white a lot of physical strength. with the contact moves because they were already very physically strong there. Like in terms of the local strength, White is already strong, but they can't actually fight back very hard against this either because they're not strong enough globally. They have a full weak group there. Their weak group here still has to pay. So in the game, White tried to fight back. He tried to play like this. Atari pushed through in the center, and Black just cut. White had to connect here, and Black just jumped. And what you can see now, White has gotten himself in really big trouble, actually. That group and that group of White, they can't both live. They're they're in trouble. White chooses to extend in the center now. And this was a mistake, I think. But to be honest, it was hard to do anything because any way you try to save in the center, you're just getting yourself in like a lot of trouble. Black now plays the jump and kills it, and White plays the Hane and jumps here. Black is winning. This game is really, really good for Black from here. But what could White have done? I mean, if White would, at this point, after jump, if White would like extend, you can think of, then Black can just block all the way here. White can't cut because they have their own Shortage of Liberty. They can try to fix their Shortage of Liberty, something like this. Possible, and then probably Black is going to start with this move. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. Maybe here, but even if it goes like this and here, White is in trouble. So, I mean, it was so hard to fight the fight after this jump. This White group, that White group. White is just so busy everywhere. The problem was initially that push through. There were other ways to play this position. Actually, there were plenty of other ways to play this position, but it was very, very difficult to organize them. For example, one way that you could play is you could Atari and descend here. So you're trying to save your group over here and then save this one separately. So that means if Black Atari is here, technically Black does not have a ladder right now. So you can extend like this, and Black should save something like so. That doesn't mean that you can then save these cutting stones. You're just going to die with the whole thing. So if you play like this, you have to plan, can I break out? Can I like diagonal? Can I play like this? Here, here, here. Can I break out from this? Like, can I actually escape into the center? This, I think AI recommended this move, and then if here, then you do this, and you get yourself split like that. And eventually here, White will be able to save, I think. But it's, yeah, this is not fun for White. That was an AI recommended variation. It would have been a lot better than the game. But even that was so dangerous the whole way through. It's very understandable. Byung-Seung-gil, I mean, it's not even clear exactly what was the critical mistake that made him die. Eventually, he was dead. And White only gets that Hane into play here. Before, it looked like Black had control over that top side. Now it's looking back again, like White can have control over the top side. But Black doesn't care. He's winning because that is Black territory, and that's a really, really big thing. He plays this connection up to the top side. He uses the squeeze that he has in that upper right that I was talking about, plays a Liberty directly, and White isn't going to really be able to fight back against this shape at any time in the future. White exchanges one time in the center there. That increased some weaknesses that Black had on this round, but nothing immediate. And White tries to make something immediate. So you can see here, White is in comeback mode. White is trying to make some kind of crazy flailing fight. And Black is in survival mode. Black is trying to just clean up the game. Nothing happens, I win kind of thing. And so that's why Black extends here. It was actually the best move. I thought that Hane was better because the normal reason why a Hane like this is bad is the cut can happen. And you would be scared that something bad will happen from this, that you're going to get shattered. But here you can easily just extend, and you don't have to actually worry about anything going wrong. So why was the Hane wrong? I was curious. I asked AI. It said this is the move. And after that, there's this one threatening to push through and cut. And then you have push and cut here. And somehow this is all gonna work. I mean, this black has to take care of itself in really, really risky ways from here. Um, Even if you play here and like this, black has to run like that, and then I mean, there's there's a few ways I think to continue from here. If you play starting with this one, we're gonna either Hane on the second line or capture these two stones almost every time, I think. So yeah, that was not acceptable. Black just chills, extend, and white plays this Hane. Black just connects. This is as solid as he can be capturing these stones. White can take the territory underneath. That helps save his group. It's actually pretty nice, but it's by no means going to bring him back into the game. Black is doing really, really well to get a chance to even go to the upper left as well, reduce this area. He just, he could make a base. He just reduces super, super loosely like this. White can immediately invade, and black plays ridiculously loosely here. He just pulls back. Um, yeah, I watched Eunkyo go inside Eunkyo Do's review of this game. You should watch it too. The link will be in the description. She was flabbergasted by this move. She was shocked and appalled, and for good reason, because this one it doesn't make any sense to play there, and almost every other move is going to be reasonable here, but this one just directly forces white to fix their own weaknesses here and to be able to take care of their shapes. While black really didn't gain very much at all. I mean, black can't easily punch anything. And then after white plays this Hane, you must be thinking now, okay, but maybe black can cut there or cut there. And you're right, actually, black has some cuts that can still do something in the area, but he doesn't take any of them. He just connects here. And with these two moves, Jer Hao has lost a very significant majority of his lead. Um, White solidifies everything, so white is cleanly connected out through the center, so he can even leave some pressure on the top black stones. And he even got the top left area. If you remember, black originally played the attached, like black should have gotten something there, and now it's all white's territory. So this was a doomed black local sequence. There were many ways to play. Even you just turn here and then you wait for white to show you which cutting point that they're gonna get suffered from, like that they're just gonna die with. It's really impossible for white to take care of the corner and the center and all those cutting points at the same time. But black was nervous. Black thought, if white gets some extra weaknesses in the center to harass against, then maybe I'm gonna have trouble capturing the center. And he was very, very anxious, I think, to win this game because this is a team tournament. A team tournament always puts the player under a lot more stress than a solo event, especially one as important as the Nongshim Cup. You feel your whole country is on the line for you this game. So black is back in high level endgame mode, I think. After a couple of mistakes here, he starts playing some time sujis and he starts playing some squeezes here. And eventually he plays this cut, which I think is the best endgame. This denies white from harassing that top side like I was talking about, and it takes a good area there. And white plays this block, which is trying to take some area as well. We're entering the endgame where both sides are thinking more about territory than thinking about weakness, of course. Black plays this connect. So the idea of this connect is that if you would play some other area, white was going to be playing this jump, and then he would connect anyway. This jump is the biggest area. This jump is super, super important for white being able to build something on the right side and also reduce into black's center. So by playing this first, black is basically asking white, hey, you gonna jump now? And white actually says no. He says, I'll extend instead. And black makes a couple of exchanges first and just answers. That extend was kind of forcing towards the corner Aji with the cuts in the center as well. So just answering here is big for territory, and then white goes in. And he goes in really deeply like this. This leaves a lot of weaknesses behind. This is not at all cleanly connected to the right side. White is hoping black will overcommit to trying to fight here and make some shape mistakes, some fighting mistakes, and maybe white will be able to link up to these 5 stones someday. Well, black just starts by asking white, hey, go ahead, connect. How are you going to do it? White plays this extend. Black says, go ahead, connect. How are you going to do it? White exchanges the Atari, connects solidly like this. This connecting shape is not that exciting for white. Black is going to get the chance to reduce the white right-hand territory quite a lot later in the endgame. But it was, in the end, forcing for white, as black had to make sure that these 5 stones were properly dead. So the game goes on, and white can play the next big endgame move, and he chooses to play on the left side, which was definitely the next big area. And the move that he played was really actually surprisingly tricky, and it got black. It caught black. It caught black totally off guard. Black played here, and it was a massive mistake. Feel free to pause the video and think, what is the best move in response to this white move on the left side? The answer is black should play the diagonal. The diagonal move, it breaks the side territory, and that's just bigger than the center territory most of the time. If white would just play over here, then black is going to be satisfied to just reduce all the way like this. Everything comes in cente and just continue on with life, and white doesn't have very much territory here at all. He played here in the game. White could play this peep and then block, and you can see white still got that center area basically as territory as well as the side. This was very, very, very different. So as white, when the diagonal happens, you would want to block like this. It's very natural. Then black can play this cut. And this cut is, it's pretty special. It's a very cool idea. If white plays here, black is going to combine this area with the top side together, in particular with this peep, to be able to save everything that he needs to save. That's going to happen with this move. So here, if white plays here, black can do this one. And if white connects, black can peep, like so. If white saves there, black cuts off the center. That's not acceptable. And if white saves here, black connects on this side. When white cuts, it is captured. Okay, that's a really cool sequence, right? It is pretty difficult to read, and there's several variations as well that make things harder there. It's not that difficult. Any 9-dan professional at this extremely high level can read that, like if this was given as a Go problem, in less than 10 seconds for sure. But black was not in Sumego mode. He wasn't in fighting mode. He was in chill, calm down, relax, win the game mode. Make sure nothing happens. That's why he played here. Psychologically, he was foot off the gas. This brought the game back to even. The professional commentaries that I've seen seem to think that black was still going to win the game by half a point, no matter what, for the rest of the game. That black just held his lead. I disagree. I don't think black held his lead for the rest of the game. Because white played here. I believe that at this moment, white had the lead. White could have won by half a point, but he played this diagonal move. To me, I honestly just do not understand why white did this. When I started looking through the endgame, this was literally the first move that I looked at that could be improved for white. Can't you play the attachment here? There's no way that black can capture this stone on the side. This is just not even close to big enough to give up this kind of 2 stones and like so much area. So black needs to back off like this, and then you pull back. Then this is Gote, kind of, and in the game, when white played this diagonal move, it was forcing. So the question is, was it worth it to spend your full move, or to get the sente to then take this really, really big move in the bottom left, right? And I believe that it was totally worth it to spend the full move on the top side, because after you play the attachment, instead of this diagonal move, after you play the attachment, And then black plays some move on the bottom side. Let's say they play like this, very basic way. You have a follow-up on the top side. You have a really, really big follow-up, in fact, which is this Atari and this cut. If black takes a liberty somehow, white will capture that stone, so black has to save that stone without taking a liberty, and then white can play this Atari. This leads to a kind of squeezing sequence, something like this, and then maybe black can connect. This is a fantastic variation for white. White has completely dominated, to be honest. I mean, white broke so much area here. The bottom left was not worth. No way the bottom left is worth. So I really just don't understand why white allowed black this much area instead. Just Atari here, and then played in the bottom left. I believe that the reason why is because he read something that's going to happen later on. Even though black gets some squeezes, when black presses and he breaks into the center like this, all the way. So far, this seems totally reasonable and normal for black. White will still have Aji in the top side. So on the right side, this whole sequence is forcing, nothing special there. That sequence is also forcing, talking about the white life and death, and the cutting point, the very vital point on the side. Finally, black plays here. And the reason why he does that, this move looks like it's just a 2-point move, and then white captures the cornerstone. Normally, that's a much bigger move. Actually, black was right to play this Hane, and it was maybe the only move to win by half a point. I'm not entirely sure, but black will eventually win by half a point. If he had played here, then this Hane and connect was forcing. Black can't just completely play away. This Atari comes, Atari, and Atari. So, of course, black knew that was coming, and he played here. This was a swing of white's territory was reduced 1 point, black's territory increased 2 points. That's 3 points, and it would have been sente for white. That means it's a 3-point reverse sente. In total, that's worth 6 points. If it's sente for your opponent and you take it, it was gote, you spent your full move, that you should double the value from what you can just count on the board. So this was a 6-point move on the top side. This one on the bottom side, it was a little less than 6 points. And so, yeah, the end game continues. They play it out pretty well. I'm a bit tired of analyzing endgames from the crazy one that I analyzed just the last Shinjin So game. Anyway, as far as I can tell, they played it well from here, and then back won by half a point. So, what a crazy game. Black really deserved the win, to be honest. Although white threw it in the end, I don't think that white deserved the win, because black, his strategy was so amazing here in the bottom left and the top side, and the way that he used these very thick positions to cause serious problems to white was super instructive. Attach and Hane is usually, we tell people when you're attacking, don't attach, and in general you shouldn't. This is an exception. He was attacking and he attached, and it was really, really nice because his main target was the other group. That was what he was gaining strength towards, and he was totally satisfied with making this white very strong locally. And it just worked out beautifully for black, and white had almost no way to play the rest of the game, but I can't even really find white's mistake in the local area. It's more like white just sort of lost control of the game starting from the center. All that nebulous fighting that they were doing paid off. So I think you can see Zharao's style in this game is very thick and sometimes way too thick. In the center here, there's almost no other top players in the world who are willing to play this connect. In fact, Zharao may just be the only top player in the world willing to play moves that are this solid and lose this much. It worked for him. He won. And we'll see if he can win next time against Shibano Torimaru in round 4. I'm looking forward to it.